see your beautiful faces. I'm gonna start out with Ron. Ron, if you can just wave so people can find you. This is Ron's bio. His artistic training is as a muralist. From 1986 to 2013, he owned this place with a really long word name, and I'm gonna let him say it. You gotta unmute though.
Okay, it's called Art Nouveau.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to mess it up. It was a mural and decorative painting business serving Washington, D.C. and Maryland. During this time, documenting his work through photography was part of his responsibility. When he retired in early 2013, he wanted to continue with photography. He graduated from the Digital Camera Mastery Program taught by Mark Hemmings. He is also a graduate of the master's program of the iPhone Photo Academy and the iPhone Editing Academy taught by Emil Parkarl P. Okay.
Parkarkless.
Okay. Later that same year, he became a member of the Montgomery County Camera Club and has been juried into local exhibitions since then. Selections of his photographs are in private homes in England, Latvia, Georgia, Alabama, and Maryland. In 2019, Donna Jones, the president of the Montgomery County Camera Club, submitted his name as a candidate to MPA's judging certification program. He graduated in December 2019 and became a certified MPA judge 2020. In 2020, he served 1 year as vice president of the Montgomery County Camera Club. His interests are photo impressionism, intentional and compound camera movement, abstractions in all of its variations, close-ups, black and white photography, landscape, nature, and macro photography. He shoots with Nikon D200 and uses two lenses, a 70-300 and an 18-70. He also has an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So you're a minimalist when it comes to photography. That's something I need to practice. It's kind of, I've already gotten out of hand with that. Okay, Ken, if you want to, I can't even see you anymore. Where are you? There you are. You were underneath my notes. Okay. This is Ken. He's a master photographer, craftsman. CPP is the owner and sole photographer of Photo Art by Ken Bovat. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. In Claverack, New York. He began his business in 1976, photographing mostly weddings and environmental portraits, working out of his home. As his business grew, he relocated to an old railroad depot, which he converted to his current studio. His photography consists of weddings, portraits, specializing in high school seniors, copy and restoration, and a small amount of commercial photography. Ken received his Master of Photography degree from the Professional Photographers of America in 1988 and his Photographic Craftsman degree in 1992. He was awarded life membership in 2014. Ken holds the Certified Professional Photographer Accreditation from PPA. In 1998, the Professional Photographers Society of New York State awarded Ken the PPA National Award. Ken went on to serve as president of that organization in 2003 and 2004. Ken reached a personal goal in 2016 of earning 125 exhibition merits. Go Ken. Ken is the recipient of numerous photographic awards on the local, state, and international levels. He has lectured and presented photographic classes to many groups, both professional and amateur. Photography is his passion as well as his profession. He uses the power of light, color, and composition to create an image that reflects a specific mood and meaning. He loves to create new and different images that he hopes will be enjoyed for generations. And as usual, I walk away from these introductions quite jealous of your accomplishments and wish that I was you.
All right. Thank you, Jen. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is our first ever assigned topic of the year competition for digital. We're giving out a first place for both the assigned 1 category and the assigned 2 category. The judges were given all the images that you selected and entered, and along with the image, they were also given the topic that the image was submitted under. So the determination was based on technical, technical aspects of the image, plus how well it met that particular category that it was originally submitted in. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on. Okay. That. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. For our first category would be the assigned one topic. We had 37 entries. We have one winner and 4 honorable mentions. So without further delay, first up, Saratoga Fair, Carol Bell. Ken and Ron, you guys can give commentary on these as we go along.
Okay. I don't know who goes first, but I will go ahead and go ahead and do this. This is a obviously striking image because of the graphic central focal point. The only thing that really distracts me as I look into this wheel is this yellow duck on the right. And I would recommend or suggest that maybe some cropping to eliminate that distraction so that the focal point clearly is on the wheel.
Okay. Next up, llama judging, Marguerite Hill.
So that I'm clear, so all these images that are coming up will be my responsibility to make a comment.
Well,
And Ken
you
will
and
make
Ken,
it.
you and Ken can tag team them if you want.
Okay. Ken,
Want
do
me
you
to do
want to
this
take?
one? You did the first one.
Okay.
I can do this one. So it's a portrait thing. So, well, I really like the storytelling here. I like the lighting in the eyes of the llama. The look of the llama is pretty good. What's distracting, I think, is the white shirt. It just becomes a dominant part of the image, takes away from the llama and the connection between the owner and the pet. And so your eye goes to the white much more than it should. So
Hey, next up is Grand Champion, Rich Schreibstein.
There is a lot of reactions, emotions going on in this photograph, and I find it hard to focus on which one it is. So if the maker could have maybe focused on one aspect of this image and its emotional impact, I think it would have made it a stronger image. What stands out to me is certainly the child, the cow's eyes as a primary focus, and everybody else's reactions is basically a secondary reaction. So I'd have hoped maybe a little bit of cropping and a little bit of focus would have helped this make it a stronger image.
Okay. Next up is Bummer at the County Fair, Nancy Futner.
okay, yeah, I like the storytelling here, and the title goes well with the expression of the little boy's face of the bummer type of thing, and the cute little calf beside him is really adorable. Um, the lighting is nice because it has direction to it. But again, it's a situation where the light is so bright, the white dominates the photograph so much. Sometimes I realize you don't have the choice there, but a different angle would improve because the background, there's a lot of distracting things in the background.
Okay. Next up is Taste of the North Country One, Alan Wiggins.
Yeah, to me, this one suggests maybe a stronger focal point as far as interest goes. Clearly, when I look at this, my eye goes to the center of the cream and the person pouring the cream. You have some lower left blur on a vase. you have a lower right blur of a hand, and then you have a focal point on the left side. So those, to me, those are all really distracting elements in this image. Clearly, the focus point is the a person pouring the cream. So I think some cropping here would enhance the strength of this image.
Okay, next up is chimney sweeper and rat catcher having a chat. Carol O'Donnell.
Right, yeah, this was an awesome image. I like this. This is one of the ones I was really getting serious about. Um, However, there are a lot of things take my away from the subject. Although I think the photograph of the guy to our left is almost a picture by itself, and the guy on the right is almost a picture by itself. But the light coming through, and when your eye comes in, you're drawn right to the background. You go right out to that white spot. It's a great big circle of white right on the top. Kind of pulls you right out of the composition. And I like the white on top of his black hat is all white. So those factors are something that is taking me away from this beautiful connection of these two people.
Okay, next up is texture and tulips. Jana Kaywood.
Yeah, this one is, it's an interesting shot. And I believe, I mean, I as far as the theme goes of bubbles and I can't remember what the other one, but this is clear. I don't see any bubbles here. Uh, I don't see any adherence to the theme here. And it could be maybe the use of a lot of the, it looks like there's some of the, what do you call it? I apologize for my memory here, but I think as far as adhering to the theme, I don't feel like this is really adhering to the theme of this particular contribution.
Next up is backyard 4th of July. Rich Schreibstein.
This is a good storytelling image. I like the way they handled it. And the contrast level, I think converting into black and white worked well, even though the colors can be really exciting, but I think the black and white here worked out really well. I think the composition was a little bit static because he is so centered. You don't flow through the subject as well as you should. That one tree right in the center above his head, you can see the crotch of a tree there, that is distracting. So there's a few little things like that that would help improve this.
Okay, next up is sanitarium door. Kim Koza.
So the theme of this is this image confuses me because the brick seems to have a lot more focus than the door is as far as the theme of aging, and so I'm confused as to where the maker wants me to focus. Is it on the brick, which is more in focus, or the door, which is not in focus? So I'm feeling a discrepancy in my vision here as far as where I need to connect to. So I think the maker needs to either crop it so that whatever the maker needs me to focus on can have a less distracting focal point.
Okay, next up is a pair of glasses. Joe Catronio.
Oh yeah, this is the one we talked about quite a bit. The graphic quality of this is really good. The graphic design of it is excellent. The impact of it is really good. It has style and it has a lot of things that go, wow, or makes you want to look at this. However, we both talked about this a lot. And one thing, if you don't mind, I want to say, we both looked at all the photographs ahead of time. When we got together, we both picked out the best ones without even saying it. We both picked the same ones. So I want everybody to know we're all on the same page. It wasn't like, well, my point here is that if it's a really, really good photograph, it's a good photograph. If it's not, it's not. So if that can be any help to anybody. And one thing we both agreed on this was that it might be better if it was just the left-hand section of black and white. And I felt adding the other side and adding the yellow did not help, because why yellow? What does yellow mean, and how does that yellow help? Just to make it different, does it help it? We have a very strong graphic, and I think you should stay with that and go with that.
Okay, next up is Foggy Fall Fun, Jenna Kaywood.
Okay, if you'll excuse me, I really need to take like a 2-minute break. If everybody can be patient, I'll be right back.
Sure. Ken, you want to take this one while he's out?
Okay, sure. This is really nice. The fog and the feeling that was captured here was really, really good. How the reflection, I would like to see a little bit more space in the bottom, so either that the reflection is not cut off, because right now the darkness of the reflection is right down the center. So when your eye comes in, normally from the left, it comes in, it can go right out there. So that kind of will pull away. There's some spots in the water that is brighter that could be taken down a little bit too, I think. But the motion and the clouds, all of that really adds to a nice mood here. I think maybe the center composition of it may not be your best composition to use for this type of scene.
Okay. We can wait for Ron.
Yeah. It's a lot of really nice stuff. We had really good discussion, and we're being tough on you, but that's how you learn. And we didn't want to just say, oh, this is nice, this is nice. We want to try to give some insight to everybody, so that when you start looking at things, you look a little bit closer, and you can improve your images and have more fun making great images.
Hey, Ron's back.
Okay, I'm
All
back.
right.
That's
Um,
good. Ken already took care of this one for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken.
No problem.
Next up is Folk Art, Barb Lawton.
This is a very clever shot. It definitely took advantage of the lighting and the plastic reflections in plastic tools. You can get that spray of color. I would have liked to have seen a little more creativity here, but this is a wonderful shot.
Next up is Pop In for Tea, Barb Lawton.
Oh yeah, this is another great graphic image. The balance of 3 on one side, 2 on the other side, I think makes a nice flow. Especially having the 3 on the right hand side, brings your eye in, and it kind of balances out a little bit. The creativity is good. However, we do see a lot of this type of stuff. The separation between the two, we liked a lot. I thought maybe the white was a little bit too bright. I think the contrast was a little bit higher. I think a little bit more detail and a little bit not so stark of a contrast might be easier to look at.
Next up is Tough Question, Bernard Schreibstein.
Yeah, the emotional response to this is clear. Clearly, this is a tough question. When you have your hands up to your head, you're clearly pondering and thinking and contemplating a tough situation. There's a little issue with the focus on the hand. To me, On my screen, it looks a little, not a lot less crisp than it could be. So I think if the maker made the hands a little more crisp than some of the parts of the hair on the forehead are, this would make it a stronger image.
Okay, next up is Still Remember Koufax, Bertrand Schreibstein.
Okay, good storytelling. However, the hand, I'm not seeing enough of it. I like to see more hand and maybe more ball to tell a little bit better how that story comes across. Um, the composition is very centered again, so you lack that flow. The burning in of the hand was almost too dark of a graduation from one part of the hand to the other part of the hand. Um, but it has nice style, and I like to see a little bit more detail in the shadows.
Okay, next up is There Is an Apple for That, Alina Kesey.
This, this was an interesting image for me because on one hand, the positions of the hands are really intriguing. However, when you have a strong color like red or yellow that really draws your attention, it really kind of draws your attention more to the saturated areas than it does to the less saturated areas. Although I can see the fact that the hands are there, and I certainly like the reflection of the hand on the right against the marble. In this image, I just don't feel like the focus is really on the hands, but it's more on the apple, mainly because of the reddish color and its central position in this image.
Okay, next up is Frozen Lake, Ray Hendrickson.
Alrighty, yeah. This has a nice leading line, how the ferns in the foreground or the comes in left to right, worked out really well, brings your eye right in to the background. It's a nice scenic, very relaxing to look at. The clouds go from the gray and it's nice, there's a little bit of blue splotch there, but there's some stuff on the top, so it frames it in really nice. I think the contrast might have been up a little bit too much, so I'm losing a little bit of detail in the dark bush on the right and the side, and a little bit of the snow is a little bit bright in the background.
Next up is Visions of Christmas Past, Dan Steen.
Yeah, I like the framing of this of the lights in this, especially with the pearls on the top coming through. The distraction that I see here on the left is that little orange orb that is right near the vertical light. And I don't know what could have been done different than this, maybe a different perspective, a different angle. But overall, the color is nice, the composition is nice, except for that one aspect of that orange orb on the left there that was a little bit tilting this image to an uncomfortable balance.
Okay, next up is Happy New Year 2021, Dan Steen.
Okay, this nice catch to catch at with the splash and all that type of thing works out really well. However, the lighting is a little bit from the, I think, coming from a wrong direction because it highlights those things. Wherever I think I guess there are olives in there. There's a little bit of highlight on that. Works out well. While you see the light coming back from the back a little bit more to highlight the splash a little bit more. The cropping, you're cropping off the corner of the glass. I think a little bit more space to the left would have made it better. Also, the bottom of the glass is cropped off. I like to see the base, so it has a better foundation. I think that will make it a little bit stronger. The lighting on the glass itself is a little bit dark. And the other big thing is the red background is there, all the wrinkles and all that in there are very distracting. You never see that in an advertisement type of thing, to have a wrinkled background like that. So you have to be careful of those type of things, because as you look at it, your eyes can go all to those. So it makes it very confusing.
Okay. Next up is Winter's Playground, Claudia Jakubowski.
This, and Ken and I talked about this one too, and Ken was very perceptive to the color changes in the green, which I was brought around to agree with that. There just seems to be a discrepancy in the coloration of the darker green and the lighter green, and I don't know what that was a function of, whether the maker was trying to create more depth. I don't know, but the composition is wonderful. I mean, clearly the going from the front to the back, nice leading area to the background. It was just more of the coloration of the levels of green in that made us feel a little, not uncomfortable, but a little curious about that.
Okay, next up is The Light Still Shines, Linda Tomasulo.
All right, yeah, this is nice. This was one of the ones we really liked a lot. Had great storytelling. The focus, everything is really nice. Your eye goes right to where you want to go. We did think that the light in the center didn't fit with the rest of the lighting. It looked contrived a little bit. It might not be, but it did have that feeling. And also, there's a lot of lack of detail in the shadows, like on the base of the bulb. So, other than that, but it really was one of the high impact images of the group.
Next up is Ghost Town, Paula Keefe.
Uh, the wonderful thing about panoramic shots is, just getting an overall general view of the image, and the choice to make it a black and white really added to the mood and the feeling of this image, and the ghost town effect of this. The only suggestion that comes to mind is, whenever you have a blown out or very high saturated area in an image, it always draws your attention to that. So the building on the right, which is almost pure white, really draws my attention to that, and it takes it away from the rest of the image. The most dilapidated building that I see is on the left. So I'm thinking a little bit of cropping here would have made this a stronger image.
Okay, next up is Paris Dream, Elena Kesey.
All right, another nice storytelling image. I like the circle, how they use the circle of the cup to bring your eye around, and the handle, so your eye flows through it really nicely. Again, what held this back was the starkness of the white to the black is just too stark, and you don't have any detail. It kind of floats there. It's up in the air, and is it supposed to be in the air? We don't know. There's no information there to tell us why it's there, and because everything's a story, and there's a lot of information that's not being told.
Okay. Next up is Job Done, Thomas Whitmore.
Well, clearly the story there's a great story here, and a wonderful interaction with people who are clearly dedicating their lives to protecting people. So there's a very strong element there of caring. Technically, when you cut off the legs of images. It does affect photographically as an issue with getting the whole image intact. So I would recommend maybe pulling back on this image and being able to get in a full frontal or a full figure catch, then cutting them off at the legs. I mean, this is wonderful storytelling, but that part of it is distracting.
Next up is Blue Power, Thomas Whitmore.
All righty, yeah. Your eye comes right in. The line is at a third, so it makes a nice composition. And you go from light to dark, so it adds depth. So that worked out well. My thing about this, I think it just lacked a center of interest. I'd like to see a bird or something on there, or something that brought me into it and it kept me there a little bit more.
And next up is Triple Fruit 2, Carol Bell.
Yeah, this is a visually interesting subject, and it from right to left, it really expresses the transition of color from bright to midtones to dark, not completely dark, but dark enough that it doesn't contrast with the black. So this is I think it's a wonderful transition of color in this image.
Next up, There's Always a Line, Claudia Jakubowski.
All right, yeah. The looks on the cat's face is adorable, and it tells a nice story. And the restroom sign and the cats all lined up. It's really funny. It made me laugh, and I enjoyed that a lot. I thought the foreground though was a little bit bright, and it's a tough situation to photograph a black cat in white snow. So you're picking subjects that are extremely difficult to get a proper exposure. For what it is, I think you handle it well, but for as competition, it's harder to have a high impact photograph when you're fighting so many contrasts and working with so many hard situations to work with. So your choice of subject matter does have an effect.
Okay, next up is Five Bottles, Joe Catronio.
This is a really conundrum, because you have a very strong focal center point of the three interesting shaped bottles, and yet you have on the left and the right two competing singular bottles, which is not as strong as a group of three. And I would suggest, or I would say that cropping out the left and the right image would make this a much more powerful image.
Next up, Open Space, Larry Hill.
Very interesting. One of the most creative images. I really like the creativity, the impact worked out very well. It has style. What kind of brought us back is there's some technical issues as far as the background. There's some banding going on, and the unevenness of the clumpiness of the colors started to be a problem. And I think the overall there's a certain softness about it that this wasn't as sharp and didn't make it pop as much as I think it should. On the ball, it's very dark on the bottom, and that kind of took away the detail of that part of it. So a great story, but I think it just misses a little bit with some technical issues with it.
Next up is Tonight's Dinner, Paul O'Keefe.
You know, I'm always a sucker for good bread and nice tomato sauce and olive oil. So this was like this was a very delicious image to me. Uh, However, I would have liked to have seen a lot more crystal focus on the bread because I want to see that bread. I want to smell it. I want to cut it. I want to eat it, and I want to dip it in those sauces. So if the maker could have made this a lot more crisper, focused image, you know, you would have had me there for dinner.
Next up is Street Festival Portugal, Phil Olivo.
Oh yeah, this was interesting. I really enjoyed this. Um, Great storytelling here, and caught a moment with the foot up and the shadow right there frames are really nice, and that probably worked out really well. Um, I think the choice of camera angle, the camera was a little bit higher than it should be. If the camera was down another 2 feet, it would have been a much more interesting photograph.
Next up is Barbie's Demise, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, first of all, choosing to make this a black and white was a good move, and the exposure appears to be on the spot. The only issue I had was the cutting off at the limbs, which is always a distracting element in there for me. So maybe pulling back on the camera length might have made this a little more stronger image.
And honorable mentions. First up, Syrup, Nancy Futner.
We're still critiquing, or
Yes,
well, okay. Well, this is an honorable mention, so obviously
yes.
these are the cream of the crop here type of thing. Yeah, I love this one. I like the way the syrup goes from one to another, and it's not like in order. It goes from side to side to side to side. Um, it really worked out really well. The contrast is a little bit higher than it should be. I'm losing a little bit of detail in some of the bottom parts of the spoon. Um, and there's some overly highlights on some of the spoons, so but that's being very picky. The background, I think, if it had um, went from light to dark to the center, would add more depth to the photograph.
Hey, next honorable mention, Wet Leaf, Kim Koza.
Uh, what I liked about this image, I mean, you see a lot of these images of drops on leaves and things. However, this particular image has these diagonal lines up on the far right that are coming down and contrasting with the more vertical lines. So you know, this is, and the focus looks good. And this is a very nice macro shot.
Hey, next honorable mention, Strawberry Drop, Alan Wiggins.
Oh yeah, this is a wonderful image. Really caught it. Um, there's a lot of these out there, but I think this one here stood out from a lot of other strawberry drops photographs that I've seen. I thought this was done a little bit better. The focus through everything works out really well. I like the color of the red, green, and blue. I think it's a nice color composition. There is a little bit of banding in the blue left of the strawberry. That could be just from going from a TIFF to a JPEG. That can happen sometimes. But the composition is really good. Love this one a lot.
Hey, next honorable mention, Time Flies, Linda Tomasulo.
I think this was a nice metaphorical image, because you have the hands of time and then you have the birds. So there's a lot of suggestive metaphorical images here, and I thought this was a really nice image. There's a lot of spacing between the clock hands and the birds and the rest of the time clock. So I think that really added to the strength of this image.
Okay, and our winning image for the assigned one topic category, Winding Stream, Sean Sullivan.
Yay! Yeah, we both agreed without a doubt. We both picked this one, you know, awesome image. The leading line, the curve through there, the lighting has directional light, the camera angle, the composition, it has it all. The impact when you first see it is like, whoa. The sharpness all the way through worked out really well. And the tonal value of it, all the tones, how they go together. It really was an awesome image.
And I would like to add the fact that the maker left a little sliver of sky in the horizon. I think if the maker brought it down and cut it off at the trees, I don't think it would have been impactful enough. But the fact that the maker left a little bit of sliver of sky, it kind of like made me feel like there was the leading lines were moving me more towards the horizon, and there was something at the horizon. You know, the thing about leading lines is if you're going to give me a leading line, give me the lollipop at the end of the line. Give me something, give me a sweet, give me a chocolate, give me something sweet at the end of the line. Don't just make it blank. And I feel that even that little sliver of sky at the end there was my lollipop at the end of the leading line. So I think this was a wonderful image.
Well, thank you. Now, what you just said, the last judge when I was in the monthly competition didn't like the blue line. Told me to crop it out. So
Yeah.
you know, we can't touch them once they're submitted. So
Yeah.
well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on now to our second category, the assigned two topics. And just for the judges, you know, information, why we have two assigned topic categories is because before COVID, we used to have a print assigned topic and a digital assigned topic. And because of COVID, we just made two digital. So that's what we have to do.
Print, right? Yep, that's the problem. Okay, I understand. Okay, thanks for explaining.
Yep.
All right.
How are we doing? All right.
We have 36 images. We have, I believe, 3 honorable mentions. No, we have 4 honorable mentions. I'm sorry. I mean, yep, 4 honorable mentions and 1 winner. First up, Savory Shrimp, Joan Heffler.
Well, Ken, do you want me to go or you want to go?
No, you can go ahead.
All right. I'm a foodie and I love to cook, and I'm a enthusiastic culinary student. So this is, you know, shrimp is one of my favorite dishes, and this is a strong image. You have it in thirds, you have it in threes, which is good. I'm not seeing a lot of focus, a lot of clarity in the images, but I think this is a strong image. If this could be a lot more crisper, a lot more clear, focused.
Okay. Next up is Found on the Farm, Barb Lawton.
Oh yeah. We really like the curves. This is curves all over the place. Really good catch on capturing that, and how you cropped it worked out really well. Our big problem that we discussed in this was the clouds. They were just visually confusing. If it was all blue, it might be better, because of that dark spot of one cloud and a light part of another cloud, and blue here, blue there. It just adds too much confusing with already a very confusing lines with the curves. I like to see just a different background could make this much stronger.
Okay. Next up is Hostas, Linda Tomasulo.
You know, I mean, the good choice of black and white, because you have a lot of shapes and lines, so that's a compliment. you do see a lot, especially with hostas, because of their strong lines and shapes, you do see a lot of images like this. So this would be considered a mature image. But I think overall, this is a wonderful capture. Maybe a suggestion would be trying to find a different perspective or a different way to see this to make it different from all the rest of the shots of hostas that you see in the area.
Okay, next up is Eye of the Storm, Barb Lawton.
Yeah, this is very high impact, and the swirls and all that certainly goes with the subject really, really nice. 5 years ago, we would be blown away by this, but there's so many of these out right now. So many people are doing these, you lose your impact. So when you do stuff like this, when you're the first person to do it, you're going to be really good. But while everybody else is doing it, the impact starts to go down because it's so much of it's out there. So it's just black and white. I think color or more of a focal point. More, I want to see more in it. I want to see more depth. I want to see something in that black. To bring me into there, and that's just all black. I want to see some depth and some more going on in this type of image.
Okay, next up is Early Spring in the Rain, Marguerite Hill.
You know, the as far as color goes, red is a very powerful color to draw your attention to. So when I look at this image, I can see the hostas and I like variegation, but these red flowers are really drawing my attention down to the lower left. So potentially an attention to cropping might have made this a stronger image to focus on the red colors. And there are a couple of other things, like on the top right and top left, you see some triangular borders. On the top left, you see the pavement. It's got a triangular, creates a triangular image on the left. And on the right, you have some grass and the pavement. You want to look at your edges when you compose an image, and make sure that you don't have any distractors on the edges to take you away from the focus point of your main subject.
Okay, next up is Sweet Bird of Youth, Ronald Spear.
Oh yeah, I like this one a lot. The storytelling here is outrageous, and the timing and connecting everything together worked out really, really well. The sharpness and the detail of all the feathers is really nice. The brown and green color harmony works out really well. That point of impact of the two coming together, perfect timing. What held us back here, I think, was that it was unlevel. I think if you leveled it up, it'd be a little bit stronger because that diagonal of the portion of the where there's the stick wherever they're or board where they're standing on is leaning a little bit, so that kind of it makes it a little bit uncomfortable. And the biggest thing is the cropping off the tail or right to the edge of the tail. I would like to see some space around the bird on the left so that it frames it in really nice. And I would probably darken the top left-hand corner so it brings your eye right into that bird.
Okay, next up is Ford, Thomas Whitmore.
Uh, I certainly appreciate the Ford, because I had a 55 Ford in college, bright red. I mean, it was a wonderful thing, and I get the celebration. However, the I think there's an overuse of the starburst effect here, which is really taking my attention away from what I think the maker really wants me to focus on. So I would minimize the effects system here.
Okay, next up is Steak Dinner, Ray Hendrickson. Makes me hungry.
Yes, yum. That's great. Yeah. In this case, the lighting on the steak and everything is really done well. The presentation of that part of it worked out really well. What bothers me here is that the composition is kind of cut right in half. It goes from steak, then the top half of the photograph is just half bottles with some writing on them. Whenever you have writing in an image, your eye tends to go to read it. So I see sea salt, I see Angela. So that's distracting. There's beautiful, beautiful steak here. You don't want to be distracted by anything. I would have just left the salad there because it harmonizes well with it. And I would have taken out the other bottles and or turned it around so you didn't see it because there's a hot spot there. I think maybe the bottle keeps it from being too hot back there. But has a lot of potential, has a lot of good things going for it.
May I say something here, Ken?
Sure.
Sure, you're doing
Sure.
good.
When I look at that, I mean, I like steak, so I would have liked to have seen the steak maybe cut on a bias and maybe propped up on another side so that you're exposed to the inside, so you know whether the steak was medium rare or well done, or well, not well done, but medium rare, to give it that, you know, because right now, as you look at it, it's in a potential state. However, when you cut it and you prop it up on and you expose the inside, you're actually making it more of an active image more than a potential image, because we don't know, when we look at this, we don't know whether it's rare, medium rare, but if you sliced it at a bias, propped it up, and exposed the inside, then I think that would have added to the deliciousness and
Mhm.
the it draws you into the image.
Good point.
Okay, next up is chicken wraps and chips, Joan Heffler.
Um, you know, I like wraps. I mean, like I said, I'm a foodie, so all kinds of food I'm interested in. However, um, it appears to me that that there could be a little more clarity or focus on the inside of the wraps. And I know, Ken, we talked about this, and if you want to give your suggestion also, as far as this image goes, that would be appreciated.
What we talked about was the background. Remember your eye comes into this beautiful arrangement of the wrap, and I like the lines of all the how the meat was cut, and I'll put it in there. But then you go to the background, and it's all these lines and the creases, and also the color harmony of the background takes away from the appetizing value of the tomatoes.
Hmm.
So the background should have been maybe all green or something like that. That off color kind of just clashes with the color of the tomato, so it makes it unappetizing. Um, and you need a little bit more foreground, so that has a little bit more balance and foundation for it.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Rainy Sunset, Kim Koza.
Wonderful color, wonderful subject. Again, the issue for me here is the cropping. There's too much information on the left-hand side, which really I don't believe adds to the image. So if the cropping was brought in a little more from the left and a little on the right, I think the focal point clearly is the person in the umbrella looking out into the sunset and the clouds. So I think the main issue here regards to cropping.
Okay, next up is Nod to Olivia Parker, Carol Bell.
Very interesting photograph. It's very creative. We liked kind of what you presented here. It's just that I think it lacked a subject matter, and it was hard to understand what you're trying to say.
Next up, Sergeant Spike, Thomas Whitmore.
Um, you know, this was confusing to me because there's a lot of focus distortion in the front, a lot of blur. and yet at the top of it, there was a lot of clarity. So I'm not clear on where the maker wants me to focus, whether it's on the foreground or the background. So I think a decision needs to be made as to where the focal point is going to be.
Next up is Stuck at Home 1, Carol Bell.
Another very creative image, um, a lot of impact, and this has a little bit of storytelling. I don't think you have to. Kind of gives a really weird feeling. The flow out of it was kind of a flow, but then there's a couple of jags in it that I kind of thought was a little bit distracting. And I like to see a little bit more detail in the shadow parts of it because there's just too much shadowing. It doesn't pop out as much as I think it could.
Next up is Roped Off, Alan Wiggins.
Um, nice choice. I'm happy that the maker chose to make this a black and white image because you have a nice contrast of vertical and horizontal. And I know this was a curves theme, and you certainly have that with the texture. I would have. There appears to be a little space at the top. I would have liked to have seen a little more space on that collar on the pipe to bring it down. Otherwise, this is a nice image.
Next up is Outcast, Linda Tomasulo.
All righty. This has a nice, strong center of interest as the little yellow leaves against the blue with nice color harmony with that one little leaf to the bottom kind of separates a little bit, which is the outcast, what kind of goes with the story. So that works out really well. The reflection in the water tells where it is, and it has a nice storytelling that way. I just think the composition was a little bit too centered for me. I like to see a little bit more flow. I'd added more to the left and had so your eye can come into the composition a little bit easier.
Next up, Glorious Orange, Sharon Silversmith.
We see a lot of this image of autumn and the composition. I like the composition. Maybe cropping it a little bit from the bottom up just a little bit, maybe a third. However, it's a nice backdrop, but I want to see it. I would like to see a dynamic image there in the center, or whether it's an animal or a human or something to focus on. I mean, I can definitely see in the foreground the two trees, and then almost like a triangular image. You right in the center, in the background, you see a tree there. So, on one sense, I can see where the implied leading lines from the trees on the either side go and meet at the center tree. I can see that, and that's powerful. However, I'm feeling like I want to see something a little bit more in this. The potential in this image is wonderful. However, I would like to see something. I don't know, something. There's something that needs to be in the center, off center of this image to make it a little bit stronger.
Next up, Raspberries, Ray Hendrickson.
Young. Here is a situation where you have all red, which works out really well. That, like you're saying before, if there's a little bit of red, your eye goes right there. But this is a red dominant composition, so that works out fine. And it has nice sharpness all the way through. Again, I think we're lacking a center of interest. If you had one of those berries that was a different color, a green one or a black one, it would have been a place for your eye to go to and help this little storytelling. There's a couple little twigs in there too that I think should have been picked out before you took the photograph, or in post-production taking them out. And the pots that they're in are a little bit bright. I would have taken those down a little bit more so your eye is not distracted by that. And also where those lines are, it's right in the center, top and bottom, so that you don't have that division of space that makes an image just feel better to look at.
Next up, The Fall Walk, Paul O'Keefe.
Yeah, the leading lines here are definitely functional. You have a nice strong color there, and then you have the contrast of the orange and the yellow and the red. I mean, this is a very minimalist, in a sense, image. The only thing that I could see, should the person on the right is not completely in the thirds aspect, a little bit more to the left might have made this a little bit stronger, but I see where the maker has brought the pathway on the right hand side line down to the right corner. That's commendable. Just a minor suggestion, maybe moving the image a little bit to the left so it's in the I guess bottom thirds would have made this a stronger image, and maybe a little bit more contrast would have helped this.
Okay, next up is Any Functioning Adult, Rich Schreibstein.
Yeah, or a really fun image. Nice storytelling. Has everything in it for that type of storytelling type of image. For a competition image, though, I think this is visually confusing. There's just too many things to look at. Keeping it simple is always a stronger way to make a stronger image. Again, when you're writing, your eye goes to it, then your eye goes to the chair, and there's a pot in the forehand. The direction of lighting is a little bit uneven. There's like the one face is lit, but the other one is only half lit. So little things like that can start just make your eye and mind uneasy, so that it's not as a strong composition.
Okay, next up is Dave and Fire, Kim Koza.
So when I first saw this image, I was like, what the hell is he cooking? And I'm sort of like leaning in, trying to look at it, and it looks like a miniature carillon, or I don't know what it is that he's doing, whether he's a metal worker or I mean, it's a strong image as far as the fire and the lighting on the gentleman is, and creating a lot of nice shadows. However, I don't understand the purpose of this image, but the lighting is good. The time of night, the blue hour, it appears to be the blue hour. He's got some nice fire going on. There's a story there, but I don't know what the story is.
Okay, next up is Socially Distant Treats, Rich Schreibstein.
Another great storytelling, and it is contemporary with the COVID, with the sending the food down, keep social distance away. So it really tells a story, and it's all part of us. So that is an important part to capture things like that, I think. However, that one white pole, your eye just goes right to that pole. Your eye comes in and down one pole and up the other one. So if you're dealing with subjects that are black and there's white with a medium background. There's just too many different levels of contrast and colors for our mind to be easy about and to enjoy it. So it's fighting against our attempt to really enjoy this. So this probably would have been better in black and white as a suggestion, because then you have got so many different colors fighting with you, and also then you could have toned down different things easier without looking muddy. And but there's a lot of good things going here, and it might be worth working on.
Okay, next up is COVID Reading Nook, Dan Steen.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is a wonderful expression of the times. The major issue that I see here is the white balance. So if the maker could work on this, I mean, this could certainly be a strong image, maybe even in black and white, because you have a lot of strong lines on. You have some horizontal lines, then you have some askewed staircase lines and some vertical lines. I mean, there is the wall line on the right, which is a little off. If that could be straightened a little bit, and so I mean, potentially this is a strong image. I think just with a little attention of white balance and cropping, this would be an even stronger image.
Next up is Where Is Everyone? Claudia Jakubowski.
This was nice because of the strong color composition. You had that yellow and blue against the black and white, so that works out really well. A beautiful setting, cropping it down in the lower third worked out really well. I just thought it was a little bit tight. I like to see a little bit more space on left and right, and also you have to be careful when you have a tree. The other trees had snow on it, but there's one tree without snow onto it. So it's just that big dark area pulling my eye right out of the composition. So that one tree jab right in the center, pulling you away, was what hurt this photograph the most, and took me away from all that beauty that is there on that snowy day.
Next up, special, so special, Alina Kesey.
You know, Ken and I talked about this one, and it's an interesting photograph. However, there is some discrepancy in the left two eggs. One seems to be a little more blown out than the other. The composition is wonderful. It's just the attention to the tonalities in this image, which I think would have made it stronger.
Up, Decades Apart, Marguerite Hill.
Yes, this is very interesting. This type of thing pulls you right in. It's a very strong graphic and a very high impact type of thing. When you ever have faces and dolls like that, there's that creep factor and all those elements are important part of making an image tell a good story. Technically, however, there is some problems with the lighting. If you look at the forehead of the doll on the left, the whole forehead is kind of like blown out. You lose detail in there. So that great big spot of this nothing there worked against the photograph a lot. And also the clothing choices you put on the dolls are competing with one another. Again, this probably might have been better in black and white because there's just so many different things fighting. However, on the same note of it, the color in some sense works very well with this photograph. I would just like to see a different lighting with it and probably a different background too, so that it kind of pulls the two subjects together, which is gonna be hard to do because their clothing, different styles, just doesn't go well together.
Next up is Take a Rain Chalk, Jenna Kaywood.
Hey, Ken, I'm sorry to do this to you again. I have to excuse myself for a few minutes, so
Yep.
I appreciate if you take over.
Okay, I'll do my best.
You're doing great.
All right, yeah, on this one, this is really neat because it's black and they let the subject just come right out. In this case, I think the black kind of works um, because it just isolates the subject right out. And however, it's hard to see. It's so far away. I like to see a little bit closer up so I can get in there and see a little bit more what's going on. And the lighting is a little bit harsh on it. I would like to see a little bit more fill light put in so that the left side of the bottle, I'd have a dimension on that. I want to rim that bottle or the container, whatever that is there. I don't want it to float into the background. I just want to have that separation of the subjects with the background.
Okay. Next up is Studying Cabbage, Claudia Jakubowski.
This is very interesting because your eye comes in and goes all around this cabbage and how it's been cut and gives you insight of inside. So it is a study of the cabbage. So that works out really well. However, I think it's just soft for me. It's just I like to see a sharpness to it, maybe soft to sharp or something like that, and also a a design which has a stronger focal point.
Okay. Next up is Chrome and Steel, Alan Wiggins.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, this is this is a really strong image. The thing that's really a challenge here is that there's so many different angles to this shot. So I'm finding it difficult to where to focus on. If the maker could have chosen one of these many different angles to focus on, it would have helped me be a little more clear as far as what the maker wants me to focus on. Overall, great image. I just would have liked to have seen a little more cropping to focus the center of attention.
Next up is Flowery Eye, Jenna Kaywood.
Alrighty. Whenever you have an eye and a double exploit like this, it always has a high impact type of image. So the impact worked out really well. However, this is another case where this type of thing has been done, you know, I've seen this hundreds of times. And so if I want to see it again, I want to see it done differently. We've seen this so much, so you lose impact that way. The flower looks softer, but the eyebrows look sharper. The light, there's no highlight in the eye. So there's a few things that could, because you look at the eye and you see to the right of the eye, like where there's some liquid or something in part of the eye, there's a shine there, but there's no shine in the iris part of the eye. I want to be focused into the iris of the eye, not into the white part of the eye. So little things like that are important factors in these type of photographs.
Next up is Triple Exposure Leaf, Joe Catronio.
I'm in wonderful technique, clearly an experienced maker in this technique. It looks a little bit over processed to me, but I commend the technique in being able to do this image.
Okay, next up is Competing Modes of Transportation, Sean Sullivan.
Oh yeah, this was really nice. Has a nice leading line. Your line goes right down through. Good storytelling, good balance, and the choice of black and white here is really done very well. And the tonal range The zone system was worked out very well here. I get seeing detail in the highlights and detail in the shadows. So it's a really nice transition of grays. So that worked out really well. The what hold me back a little bit on this, there's a little bit of a tipping to it. I kind of feel like it was the camera wasn't straight somehow, and this visually is very confusing. Um, Something simple would always have more impact.
Okay, and our honorable mentions. First up, Stairway to Heaven, Ronald Spear.
Yeah, Ken and I talked about this, and this is a very strong linear composition. I mean, you have you have curves, but that vertical multicolored totem in the background there. And at the first, I had an issue with the blown out lights up there. However, relative to the main subject, it was really a secondary issue. So this was a strong image.
Okay, next honorable mention. It's all about the curves, Phil Olivo.
Yes, this was awesome. We liked this a lot. It was a typical tool that I've used a lot, and Ron said he used it a lot. However, I never stopped and looked at it in this composition first, and I have to give the maker credit for cropping it just this way. It brought out a certain dimension, or it gave this tool a certain life that I'd never seen before. So I thought that worked out really well. There's a texture, it looks like it was added, but the texture worked out excellent with the subject matter, because the subject has some nicks and things in it, so that texture kind of went with that feeling. So that worked out really well. The other thing that really bothered me was the shadow of the lighting going from the tip of the tool down to the side. There's one line going right through there that's a little bit harsh. I'd like to see a little bit softer lighting transition to take that out.
Okay, next honorable mention. What a year, Joe Catronio.
I mean, this image, I mean, totally sums up this whole year of craziness that's going on. And the use of the words and the mask, and you have a central point of the image of the person there, but you have all, it's almost like all these words are like all these random thoughts that are going on in our heads, and here we are as human beings, just like trying to take in and grasp and understand all the stuff with Trump and COVID and lockdown and unemployment. I mean, there's a lot of mental things going on in each of us right now, and and even in the eyeglasses of the image, the person, it's like you have the COVID symbol, right in there, and yet you have this person, this human being, experiencing all these various bombardments of change. So this is a very powerful image, and this is very, very powerful.
Okay, and our last honorable mention, Eye on the Sky, Sean Sullivan.
Yeah, this is a really nice graphic. Great choice of black and white again. Just the lines all work well together. Nice to capture it from that angle and crop it that way. I think they did very well with their choices of cropping and use of the black and white. What was a little bit bothersome was a transition between the center of the circle to the edge. It goes from dark to light, and around the edges is a little bit lighter, and on the bottom part is lighter, and the top part is not. So it looked like it was maybe been burnt in or something like that, and it wasn't evenly done. And maybe it's just the way it was, the way the clouds were there. But whatever it is, there's a little bit of light to dark transition that was a little bit steeper of a curve than I would like to see.
And our winning image for assigned topics 2 is, how did it come to this? Alina Kesey.
Boy, this one threw me through the loop. I even got my wife in there and I said, what do you see here? How do you see, what do you, I mean, this was a very creative, a visual conundrum, which got my rational mind trying to figure out what the heck was going on here. And I just threw up my arms and said, can't figure it out, but this is a wonderful image.
Yes, we really both enjoyed this very much, and was no question about it. It just blew us away. Thanks for entering it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Ron and Ken, and congratulations to everybody who placed, and all great images as always. I'm sure it was a tough job.
It was tough, yes.
Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, this is the first time I've done a co-judging, and Ken, I just want to tell you that it was a wonderful experience with you, and
Thank you.
I
Same here, yes.
I certainly learned a lot from you, and everybody.
Likewise.
Yeah, and everybody, your images were wonderful, and thank you to the whole entire club for inviting me to be a judge.
Well, Ken, Ron, thank you. Great job. Love the commentary. It's as Sean has said, this is a tough task. And you guys did well. Thank you.
And
Well,
we
thank
want to
you.
be helpful,
Yeah.
but hopefully we just don't overdo it. We hopefully everybody understands. Making comments is not easy. We
No.
try to be as positive as we possibly can. We want to say stuff to help it, but sometimes it comes off maybe the wrong way. And
No, I don't think so. I think it was
good.
It was
I
fine.
hope
Yeah.
so. Good. All right. Good. Okay. I've had criticism before being too tough, but
No, I
I
think
only
you did.
want to help everybody. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
came through. That was yeah.
good.
Wonderful.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well,
Yeah,
everybody.
the judging was great. I think, we, as a group, we definitely appreciate constructive criticism. And as you said, Ken, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that, doesn't help anybody. So we appreciate it. And this was tough because of the assigned topics. It's the first time we've done it. We weren't sure how it was going to work out. And I think it worked out great. And I think the two of you contributed very well to that for us.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And I don't know if you noticed, but there's a chat section down at the bottom and there's a comment down there for you.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
This really helps me personally as a judge. I've only been doing it about a year, but I've tried to get involved and as much as I can and learn from other judges, which I do. And like I said, I've never done a duo judge thing, and I wanted to do it because I've never experienced it before. And this is a wonderful first experience. And thank you very much for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you for joining us. And anybody who hasn't got their picks in for next week's general and monochrome competitions, please do so by midnight Saturday. If you did not get an email with links to your images, please just let me know. And look forward to seeing everybody next week.
All right,
Thanks Sean, for
guys.
your hard work.
Okay.
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
Okay,
It's a
thank
pleasure.
you.
Good
Good to work with you
Congratulations.
again.
Night.
I'm gonna go tear
Good
down.
night.
the page
Ken and
now.
Ron.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.